Hi, this is the Racial Equity Policing Commission, Thursday, May 9th, 2024, starting at 5:32. Welcome, thank you. And I'd like to do a roll call for the commissioners first, please. Starting with, hi,
Me?
yes,
Katie Durante.
Jason Inosa.
Rodrigo Fernandez.
and then online,
Deetria Taylor.
Jason
And-
Wessel.
Oh, sorry, Julia Summerfield.
Ulvia Guadarrama.
Dia Uman.
Heather Stringfellow.
Chloe Raymundo.
and I'm Tanya Hawkins. Okay, then we have staff, please.
Yes, Michelle Mooney, Equity Manager, Salt Lake City Mayor's Office. Sorry.
Maria Romero, Executive Assistant.
Nancy Cantor, I'm just an observer from League of Women Voters.
Oh, Smith, Executive Assistant.
Chief Mike Brown. Lieutenant Andrew Clough.
And online,
Carissa Schlesinger with Salt Lake City Police Department.
Good evening. I'm Brent Weisberg with the Salt Lake City Police Department.
Damian Choi, Chief Equity Officer.
Hassan Abdi, City Council Office.
okay, that's it, thank you. We'd like to go with the open dialogue now. During this portion of the meeting, commissioners may raise topics and discuss current events that may impact or influence the commission's overall work, discussions and deliberations to provide recommendations to the mayor and the city council regarding Salt Lake City Police Department's policies, budget, and culture. No action will be taken during this section of the meeting. Matters discussed during this section of the meeting may be scheduled on a subsequent agenda for follow-up. So does anybody have anything to bring up?
I would like to bring something up if that's okay. So I checked the agenda and there doesn't seem to be anything about the police response to peaceful protests at the U this past week. So I was hoping to discuss that given the effects it had on students. Like as a student on this committee, I feel like it's my duty to speak up on firsthand experiences and ask questions so that we can clear up some of the things that happen. So I did prepare a short statement just so that I wouldn't forget any of the thoughts. If it would be okay if I read that, I'm not sure if that's allowed here.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So honestly, as a student, I am a little taken aback. We are on this commission to make sure that policing in this city is equitable. And yet mere days ago, students were systematically targeted for peacefully protesting, attacked by police and arrested for just peacefully protesting. I contend that our work here continues to be symbolic instead of actionable if events like these can continue to happen. We are in a similar position as in 2020 when this commission was founded, where students could not peacefully protest what their government was doing without police repression. I was at the recent protests, all of them, and I have to say, if the point of the riot police was to make us feel safe, that unfortunately had the opposite effect. In fact, over 200 University of Utah faculty have condemned the violent police response to peaceful protests. Students should not fear police. We should feel safe when there is police presence on campus. But the escalation on behalf of officers makes us feel at risk. We are protesting the same as civil rights activists who oppose segregation and illegally occupied whites-only establishments. And finally, historically, students' protests have been on the right side of history, while police repression has attempted to put down social movements. So I just had a couple of questions for you, Chief Brown, if that's okay if I bring them up.
Yeah, but let me make a statement first.
Okay.
If this is about the University of Utah and their campus, that was their operation, and we were up there in support of them. It would be completely inappropriate for me to speak of tactics and operational plans. So I would refer you to the University of Utah Police.
Okay. I'm just, I mean, SLCPD was up there. I'm just wondering about their response to the situation, if that's okay. Not the tactics or the administration.
Yeah, we were asked
Mhm.
University of Police and through a mutual aid request.
Yes.
which we did.
Okay, and would it be okay if I asked questions about like SLCPD behavior, or like Salt Lake Police Department behavior up there, actions taken by your officers? Would that be all right? Not like about the university.
You can ask, but I don't know. Go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, so on April 30th, when the officers were up there, they were wearing neon vests, which covered their badge numbers and their name. This was something that I commented with a lot of people there. I was just asking why the names and badge numbers seemed to be covered up. I'm sure the students who were arrested would like to know who it was that arrested them.
They can easily get that through a grammar request from the University of Utah.
Not from the officer themselves, from the university. Okay, so,
Those reports would have been written by the officers that made the arrest,
okay,
and so they can get that information.
okay, perfect. And then are you aware about the arrest of a MECHA organizer at the U of U who was also a student on April 30th? No, he was he was the only arrest on that day. He was taken for going to the bathroom.
No, I don't know anything about that.
No, okay, perfect.
I will say this, Salt Lake City PD did not make any arrests up there.
No, okay, perfect.
So it's hard for me to comment on other departments and what happened. And it wouldn't be right for me to talk about that.
Okay, and just like regarding the police and riot gear, why was that deemed appropriate for peaceful unarmed protesters?
Well, the gear they wear is to protect them. We put them into situations where it could be hazardous. Bottles, bricks, things are thrown. It allows them to be much closer and interact in a less using less force.
Okay, and so it was like because they were put in a violent situation or like a situation of threat that they were in that gear.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
they're out there after a lawful order was given
Mhm.
to make sure that everybody cleared the President's Circle.
Yeah.
But in doing so, there were a lot of things thrown at them,
Mhm.
bottles, a lot of different rocks like that. So they're in harm's way.
So I sit on this.
Okay, just really quickly, so if the protest was deemed a threat to the police, why was action put off for 5 hours? Like if there was an immediate threat with the protesters, why was there no police intervention before that?
That's a question for the University of Utah.
Yeah, even like putting on the riot gear, that decision was all made through the University of Utah.
Okay, okay. And I would like to make a recommendation. I'm not sure exactly how this would work, but I read that we can make like recommendations for policies and culture. So I would like to at least like initiate a recommendation. And this is pulled directly from the statement from over 200 U of U professors. So this is a quote. Peaceful protests met with police retaliation or the threat thereof create a chilling effect that stifles free expression, which undercuts the university's mission. We want assurance that future peaceful protests will not be met with police violence. So if that could be made like a recommendation or like if we could vote on that, that's something I would like to put forward. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I did want to mention that.
Yes, so for this section, and I want to commend you for bringing this up because you are representing your community on this commission. So I value everything that you have shared here today, Commissioner. And for being a courageous leader for speaking up on that, because I know that can be tough, especially as a younger commissioner. So if you provide me with that statement, I will follow up on our end. We're not going to take any action today. I still have to understand what the request is kind of asking for.
Okay.
And we can talk more one-on-one. But if you send me all of that in an email, then I can review that.
Okay, perfect.
But thank you for bringing all of this up. And then we have a hand here. I don't want to take over.
But
Oh, go
you
ahead.
understand that that was a University of Utah operation.
Yes, I was just like concerned about the like involvement of Salt Lake Police Department there.
Sure.
Because like I'm assuming that they do have some sort of autonomy when they're there. Like there's not like administration telling them like specific actions, like things like that.
We're following the directions from the university.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Oh,
Yes.
And
yes,
employee-
please, yes, please.
I do see the hands on
Yeah.
as well.
I fully appreciate what you're
Jason.
saying and things like that, because legally I cannot speak to.
Yeah.
And in fact, I feel like it's a little bit of a conflict for me to say any more than what I'm about to, but Chief Brown is absolutely right. These decisions were made from the upper leadership levels of the University of Utah. Chief Brown was there assisting the University of Utah, as was Highway Patrol, West Valley, and Unified Police. There is a mutual aid agreement amongst all the agencies in the valley. But as far as assurances about not having police at demonstrations, I think you really need to direct those directly to the president or leadership of the university.
So like when the university police calls on like other police departments, or is this agreement like they're forced to come, or they can decide to be like,
No, there's no.
they're not armed, like we don't need like hundreds of police there, like, so the like single police department makes that decision, correct?
It's based on the decision, the decision is based off of circumstances that are. And as far as the other questions that you asked, I would have to direct you to safety, my boss's boss and the president. I fully understand where you're coming from, and this is, we did not want to see happen. And nobody wanted this, but I think it's worth discussion, and I also commend you for bringing this up. Because it's gonna happen, I think as we get closer to the election, I think there's gonna be more potential for these types of interactions, which I honestly deplore. I do not like these, right?
Yeah.
So I would suggest seeking an audience with Chief Squires and with the president.
Okay.
I think you have valid questions, and I don't think they would hesitate to grant you an audience and have that discussion. I think that's really all I can say, having actually.
Yeah.
I was there all.
I saw you, yeah,
Faculty Senate is on the side of students.
yeah, okay,
I mean, I cannot speak for the body, but
I did see the.
there's a lot of,
statement.
been an ongoing discussion since the Mecha,
Mhm.
6 months ago. Like a lot of concern.
Yeah, definitely.
Julia, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about the same thing. Basically, I understand that you're saying that some of this is the University of Utah and some of this is the Salt Lake City Police Department, but I also don't want to expunge their presence and responsibility. I was really worried to see articles that the Salt Lake City Police Department were using rubber bullets to like at these protests. I'm wondering if that is true, and like if you are willing to comment on that, whether it was the University of Utah's request or not, if the Salt Lake City Police Department fired rubber bullets at protesters. Well, I'll just start with that.
It's not true.
It's not true. We did not fire any rubber bullets. We do not use rubber bullets. We have never used rubber bullets.
Okay, so is it who is getting shot, or people who have reported to have been shot with rubber bullets? Who are shooting these rubber bullets?
Again, I'll have to direct you to the University of Utah for that answer.
Sorry, if I may add on to Juliet, this morning I was researching for my questions, and KSL themselves who were there, they reported that rubber bullets were shot. So I'm not sure, like who was shooting these?
For our agency, again, we can't speak out of turn for another agency and what they do use force wise. All we can say was Salt Lake City was not the one who
No, okay.
involved in it.
And sorry, so it was Salt Lake City, UPD, does UPD have that gear?
I don't know.
Okay,
We have that gear, but we do not deploy it.
okay,
And what it is, it's not like a bullet from like a firearm.
no, it's like a huge, like,
It's a 40 millimeter foam
well, yeah,
round.
It's called a foam baton, but that's not a rubber. Rubber bullets are basically rubber bullets that skip across the ground and kind of fly indiscriminately at people. We don't use those.
they said it was called a beanbag.
It wasn't.
Something, that's what KSL said, I'm just reading off of.
And I know, and you saw the pictures in KSL and you see the officers with the launchers.
I mean, I was watching the live stream as well, and I saw students like being like, oh my God, they're firing rubber bullets.
Yeah. So there are only certain circumstances which that level of force. And whoever officer that was, they have to articulate why they use that force under their department policies based off of what he saw and felt at the time.
Okay.
I can't speak for that department either. I don't know who the officer was who launched that round.
Okay.
But it's going to be up to that officer to describe why he did what he did in detail, and then that has to comport with the laws of the state and the policy of that department.
And how could we find this officer? Just like for, I'm sure the people that were shot would like to know who shot them.
So I can tell you from our department, we're still working to put everything together.
All right.
And then I know West Valley, Unified, and Highway were there. I do not know which officer from each agency. Chief Brown says it wasn't Salt Lake City, it wasn't our officers. That much we know for a fact, but this was a huge incident. There were multiple officers, there were multiple arrests, and I can tell you this is you know, we're going on 2 weeks from that date, and it's all still being put together.
All right.
So
Thank you.
there's nothing to hide. Everything that we have in our department is been grandma requested multiple times already. It's just not ready for release yet because it's still being
Pretty fresh, yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make, clarify rubber bullets, that's a term from years past, like I say, a lot of times. Historically, they've been used and they skip off the ground and they tumble.
Mhm.
They're horrible aim, and so they're kind of, you don't know where they're going. We don't use anything like that.
Okay.
Okay.
And the beanbag, like because that's what KSL reported, what type of bullet is that?
I don't know what they're talking about on the beanbag.
Okay.
Sorry.
Try to bring it up, Don.
So we have that equipment, but
so the bean bags are generally fired from a shotgun,
Okay.
which is just generally designated for that type of less lethal munition. But I did not see any shotguns. But you'd see them because they have orange. They're orange. They're bright orange.
Okay.
And I did not see any. So it was not a bean bag. I could most certainly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, can we go to Commissioner Wessel online first?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Commissioner Wessel has his hand raised online.
Wait, sorry, can I finish what I was saying though?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, because that was just like part of what I was gonna ask about. My other concerns is that even if it was like the UPD that decided to do that, was the Salt Lake City Police Department, I think like a large theme of this commission board is trust between the police and the community. And right now, I know people are feeling very unsafe and they're very unhappy with the Salt Lake City Police Department's presence in these protests. And if you're anticipating that there are going to be more, especially at places like the University of Utah, where there's, lots of students, and, I'm a student. So of course, I understand the necessity for like free speech on college campuses, but also for students to feel safe expressing their opinions, whatever. I think that the Salt Lake City Police Department needs to do a lot of more thinking, consideration into how they're going to respond to whether it's more protests that are responding to what's going on in the Middle East, or if it's electoral based, political, whatever. I think that the Salt Lake City Police Department overall still had a large unwelcomed and unpleasant presence for the students that were there. And so I think that, just like as a general comment, I think the Salt Lake City Police Department needs to do more to ensure that students feel, even if they are attending protests or demonstrations, that students feel that they're safe on their own college campuses, which they pay tuition at, which they live at. So, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner,
you.
for your comment. We will be taking note of this. We're just not taking any action right now, so we are all taking minutes. Maria has the minutes, and SLCPD will take their own notes as well and feedback. But it seems like this situation right now is regarding the U of U police force. So in terms of time, I do want to, right now, what we have control over and what the commission has control over is anything working with Salt Lake City Police Department. Not
Yeah,
any other police. But we are taking note.
Yeah, I just want to quickly clarify. I totally understand that the University of Utah Police have like a large, overwhelming presence in this, but obviously the Salt Lake City Police were there, and their presence may have been mishandled in these situations. And so I'm not trying to say like, oh, everything that happened at these protests is the Salt Lake City Police Department's fault, but rather I think that they need to, you know, own up to maybe some own mistakes that they've made or look forward to the future to making protests feel safer for students. That's all.
Right.
Just a quick question, but and I'll be quiet. So in your update today, Chief, will there be an update about the police presence at the U? Is that part? Because I looked through the slide, I may have missed it, but is that going to be part of today's update?
State, yeah, that'll come from there after action,
Okay.
the use after action.
In
No,
here?
no.
No. I mean,
No.
from your like update, like SLC,
No.
like that was,
The update is already published of
Yeah.
what we're gonna talk about.
Yeah.
So
okay, that wasn't included here.
this is the agenda, like how it is, how
Yeah.
it's presented. These are the
Okay.
slides, these are the meeting materials. So as this agenda item does say, if we want to have a follow-up discussion, it'll be on a subsequent agenda, not today's agenda.
Okay, no, I'm just clarifying to make sure I didn't miss it or, okay.
Okay, Commissioner Wessel.
Okay, I just wanted to make, I guess, a comment or statement. I'm not going to ask questions that would relate to tactics, but 4 years ago when we had the George Floyd protest that escalated into a riot, it was minimized in no small part due to Salt Lake Police Department and Chief Brown engaging in de-escalation tactics, backing off when it was necessary, negotiating with people, employing this skill set that prevented that riot from becoming something much more destructive than it had the potential to be. And now we go to 2 weeks ago, and we did not see any of those tactics being utilized by law enforcement at the University of Utah campus. So I have to feel like we've regressed, or the 4 years that this commission has been interacting with the police department, how have we moved backwards is kind of where my thought process is. So I'm severely disappointed in what I've observed, and I realize it's not the Salt Lake Police Department to blame for this, with multiple jurisdictions and multiple agencies up there. But I really am disappointed in seeing the Salt Lake City Police Department participated to the degree that they did, using the tactics that they did, when we know that they have and can do better. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Next is our public comment. Did we read the whole thing? Oh, do I need to read the whole thing?
No. So we.
Is there,
Yeah.
do you have a public comment?
No,
You're just
Yeah.
observing?
Yeah.
just observing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then I'd like to approve and adopt the minutes for March 2024. I'm asking for what?
If there's a motion.
If there's a motion to approve and adopt the minutes.
Sure.
Anybody second that?
I second that. Ulvia.
Yeah. Ovia.
Okay.
Yeah, all in favor.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So that this is ethical, if you have your camera off, please show me in some kind of form that you accept. Thank you.
I accept.
Thank you, Commissioner Copper.
I accept.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, all in favor.
All in favor? Oh, the motion passed.
Okay.
And then next, we have the Salt Lake City Police Department Chief Update.
All right, thank you. You guys have sent the slides.
Yes, right here.
Chris, did you want to go first?
Oh, yeah, please go on.
Yeah.
That's, okay.
Thank you, Chief. While we get the slide deck pulled up, Michelle, this is the one that I just sent you for the community outreach update.
Yes.
Perfect. I appreciate you loading this. Good evening, everyone. As I said in the beginning, my name is Brent Weisberg. I'm the Communications Administrative Director for the Salt Lake City Police Department, overseeing our strategic communications and our community outreach efforts. If we could go over to the next slide, we'll get into the introductions. I'm really happy to introduce to you all Detective Carissa Schlesinger. She is new to our team and has already hit the ground running. I'll turn the time over now to her so she can introduce herself. And then I would like to take the time to just kind of go over some of our objectives and provide you with some information about what we're doing here at the Salt Lake City Police Department with regard to community outreach. Detective Schlesinger.
Hi, my name is Carissa Schlesinger. I am the new community outreach detective. I've been working in this position for about 3 to 4 months now. Before that, I was on patrol. I've done my time with SWAT. I've done detective work, and I'm really enjoying this position. I've been with our department for just under 6 years and enjoying every minute of it.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So this is our mission statement at the Salt Lake City Police Department, and this is obviously what guides us through our entire day as professional staff, as police officers, and it really shapes what we focus to do when it comes to community outreach. And I want to take the time to read it to you. It is short. The mission of the Salt Lake City Police Department is to serve as guardians to the citizens of the city, to preserve life, maintain human rights, protect property, and to promote individual responsibility and community engagement. What we want to do as police officers and as professional staff of the Salt Lake City Police Department is to empower communities. And if we could go to the next slide. Our goal is to make sure that we are an accessible police department. One of the things that Detective Schlesinger has been so great at doing is getting out into the field, meeting with community members at the places that they go to as they interact with others in their community and in their neighborhoods. As we talk about the collaboration that we see, we know that to build a stronger, more robust police department, we need to foster collaboration with our community members. We know that there isn't one singular or siloed community. Our community is diverse. It is representative of people who are young, old, who come from various backgrounds. And so we are trying to build upon the individuals who represent Salt Lake City. And so as we do that, we build trust. And tonight has really been an opportunity for us to hear from individuals. And that's why we believe so much in listening. Chief Brown obviously talks so often about listening and learning as we build trust and to address the concern from our community members. Each community is going to have different concerns when it comes to the police department and their needs from the police department. So that's why we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can, working with our district community liaison officers and all 3 of our main patrol districts to make sure that we're listening to the community and we're getting that information back to the responsible individuals in our department who can affect the change, including Chief Brown. Next slide, please. I did want to take just a moment, I forgot on the last couple of slides to talk about some of the photos there of the individuals who you have seen. The photo of the last slide was one of our police officers at the Salt Lake Marathon meeting with community members as they're running. She is so engaging and she was actually, cheering on the runners as they were going by. And we got multiple people who were complimenting her, who wrote to the police department saying, as they're running their marathon or their half marathon route, she was there giving out water, supporting them. And that's just one of the small things that our police officers do. The photo that you're now looking at, 2 of our officers, Officer Maldonado and Officer Osejo, have really, Officer Maldonado there on the left actually grew up in Salt Lake City. She is from the Glendale neighborhood. She was part of our Police Explorer program and has really just honed in on the importance of community-oriented policing. She is often someone you will see on our social media pages, highlighting the great work that our police officers do. Again, to continue with our objectives is to enhance the communication. We try to communicate in as many ways as possible to let the community members know about what we are doing. We also want to make sure that we are promoting safety, and we recognize that there is that concept of the perception of safety. If you don't feel safe in your neighborhood, even though the crime statistics might show that crime is down in your particular neighborhood, if you don't feel safe, that gives us more drive to do everything we can to help bridge that gap to make sure that community members are feeling safe. And Detective Schlesinger and her network of officers who often go out to provide crime tips. We were recently in the Sugar House neighborhood handing out crime prevention tips. We've done that in Rose Park and Glendale, making sure that we can prevent crime from happening. And as we prevent crime from happening, obviously that allows us to connect further with our community. Next slide, please. So our approach to outreach here at the Salt Lake City Police Department is maintaining a regular presence by organizing and attending community events. And I want to turn the time over to Detective Schlesinger, who will talk about one of our outreach events that we did recently at a local school where we went to the playground. And Carissa, could you talk a little bit about that and how it was a very small, intimate event that we got to interact with the students?
Yeah, so I really enjoy hanging out with the kids. They always make it fun. So recently I've been reaching out to the school districts and seeing if we can come by and just hang out with the kids during recess so that they can actually get one-on-one reactions or time with us, just so they can understand that we're not bad people and that they can feel comfortable around us. I want them to know we're human, and I want to humanize the police department in their eyes as well. So I think it's fun to go play soccer and kickball, and I know Brent was out on the monkey bars having fun with it. So yeah, that was kind of our big thing. We've been going to the school districts in the mornings as well to do the crosswalk safety. And the parents are really enjoying that because they know that we're here to help promote safety on the streets, but also making sure that their kids get to school safe as well.
Thank you. We know that this is a long-term investment. We want to make sure that we are showing up as frequently as possible to make sure that we are building these relationships over time. And that's why we continue to develop police-related community-focused programs through our Neighborhood Watch program, through our Police Explorer program, through our Police Community Response Team, which this group is well familiar with. In fact, the person who is photoed here, Specialist Dominic Carter, is a member of our PCRT team, and we're continuing to focus on our hiring practices to hire from the incredibly talented pool of individuals who live and work in Salt Lake City. And as I stressed again too, the collaboration with our community groups. We would not be able to do what we do. We would not be able to be as successful as we are, and we would not be able to grow without the collaboration from our community groups. So it is really an honor to serve this community, and I know everyone in our police department really understands the importance of extending the opportunity to get out and serve and give back to community members outside of their daily calls for service. Next slide, please. And then finally, I just wanted to provide you all with some data. Prior to me coming on to the team, we didn't have the best way to track data. Today, we are using data to drive and inform our decision-making at the police department. It's an initiative of Chief Brown, and that extends all the way from the lowest officer in our rank, making sure that they understand our data, all the way up to the office of the chief. We really know how important data is. So we have started to track our outreach better. You can see here in this 8-month period between May and December of 2022, we had 44 community outreach events. And while that number alone sounds pretty good, it's pale into comparison of what we did in 2023 during that time, an increase of 104% during that same time period. We did 90 community events in 2023. And this year, we are not slowing down. My goal is, if we could do it, we would have a community outreach event every single day. And I know Detective Schlesinger feels that. I mean, on days that we don't have anything going on, she will absolutely say in our squad, who wants to go out and just talk with kids, meet with parents, meet with the community members who are out there. And so for this year, in the first 5 months, we have already done 53 outreach events, and a couple other statistics that aren't on the slide that I think are important. Our average community event is about 2 hours out in the community. We have had more than 200 employees participate in our community outreach events. That is an incredible number when you think of the size of this police department. We are not just talking about the same people going out to these community events. This is a department-wide effort, and I really want to thank Detective Schlesinger for her work. And I'll turn the time over to her to see if she has any final thoughts.
Yeah, so I know we focused a lot on the school districts, but we've been trying to contact more than just the younger kids as well. We've been working with the senior citizen homes as well. And a few weeks ago, we actually went and did one of their workouts with them. And I think they really enjoyed having us out there, and that they're finally able to ask the questions that they've always wanted to. A lot of times the elders do get criminalized a lot with fraud and just, you know, it just being lonely as well. So having us come out there and hang out with them just for a little while has really made a difference with them. I know I've contacted a few of the managers of those locations, and they love when we come out to hang out with them. This job has been a blessing in disguise. Growing up, I've always wanted to be a police officer, and I've always wanted to help people and bring a positive impact for the police world out into the community. And being in this position has really helped me feel like I'm fulfilling what I've always wanted to do in life. So thank you, Brent and Chief, for letting me take this position, because it's been a great time.
Doing a good job.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
Next.
yes, switch presentation.
Oh.
All right, thank you, Earl.
Now?
Yes.
All right, Commission, thank you. It's nice to be here with you again tonight. A couple things we wanted to follow up. We wanted to talk about where we're at with some of our training. Next slide, Michelle. We talked about the video that Chief Hahn had put together for us. We haven't started the training yet. It'll be coming out here shortly, but we did give Michelle the training, and she can share it with you if you'd like to watch it yourselves. I think it's a really good video. That will be, if you like, you can take a look at it. I don't know how you would get it out to people.
Yeah.
It's too big to
I have
email,
to, yeah.
but she has it on a flash drive that she can share that with you. Any questions on that? Okay, one of the other trainings that we've been working on is from Equality Utah. Olivia Hamida. She has been coming out to the first hour of our trimester training. Everybody goes to trimester training. This trimester is out at the range, the state range, and they have a training facility out there where she comes in and has done a fantastic job talking about some of the things that misconceptions, things that are overlooked, and how we can bridge and come together as a community with our LGBTQ plus community. She has a military background, which really, she has a lot of commonalities with policing, and she does a fantastic job. There are several dates that we've given to Michelle, so if you'd like to attend, you're more than welcome. Let her know, and then she'll coordinate with Lieutenant Clough. It's quite a drive. It's out there by the new prison, but we can get you out there and you can certainly watch that. Okay, next slide. There are a couple other trainings that we've been working on, and I know we've talked about here. I'm going to let Andy, Lieutenant Clough, talk about those for just a minute.
Yeah, so we still have and are waiting to implement the True Empowering and the Legal Equity Advocates trainings. The funding for those, we're still trying to clarify where the allocation is so that we can use that money for those trainings. We've been in contact with our purchasing and with finance at the city to be able to figure out where that is. With all that's been going on with budget this year, it's been slow to get information, but Michelle and I are both trying to work through that so that we can get you more answers. Hopefully those trainings will be available for around January of 2025. The reason for that is, for it being so far out, is because it's very difficult to fit in additional trainings into our already overextended training hours that are required. The state requires mandated 16 hours for every officer. On top of that, we have to get 40 hours every year. So to get our 600 officers through those required hours every year is very, very difficult. So in order for the training unit to be able to plan that out, they have to plan it at an extended length of time, right? So we were able to get Equality Utah in this semester or this trimester for training. Hopefully Chief Han's video will be able to get in next trimester for training. And if we can start getting the funding and everything approved to move forward with true empowering and legal equity advocates, we'll be rolling those out in the spring trimester and summer trimester 2025.
Okay, we are still moving forward with our community group meetings. In fact, last night we had the Latino Coalition meeting. I think, Michelle, did you attend that one?
Yes.
Okay, they have been going strong for several years, and they have a lot of people show up. They're good conversations that we enjoy having with our communities. The NHPI meeting was scheduled for a week ago, but there were a few folks from the community that couldn't make it. So we'll reschedule that, see if we can't engage another day. The Black community, I know Captain Bennett, who's assigned to help with that group, has met and talked with Pastor Moses and some of his clergy. The refugee committee that's being overseen by Captain Goodman, she's attended some of the state meetings, but they haven't been able to engage a lot of the community members, and that's one of the things they're working with. There's a lot of leaders that show up to these meetings, but the community, we need to find a way to bring them into the meeting as well, or to meet them in a different time, different location. Captain Zayas is over the LGBTQ plus community. She went to the last meeting. Again, there was only one attendee, but we will keep working on that. Like I say, one is good.
Yeah,
We want more, right?
Good, yeah.
So we'll keep working hard. But what I want you to know is we are meeting with our community. It may not always be in a formal setting, but we talk with our community almost weekly. I've had conversations in the last few weeks with Pastor Davis. I've spoken with Pastor Moses. A lot of times it's not, the engagement is not always in a meeting, but it's like Chris is doing with outreach. We are talking with our community at every chance we can, because it's extremely important for us to build that trust.
Commissioner Wessel, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I did not attend the Latino meeting last night because on my calendar it had been crossed out and marked as canceled. Can I have a new invitation or something sent to me, because that's going to be a recurring problem. I'm kind of a slave to my calendar, so if it tells me it's canceled, then I don't show up.
Commissioner, who sent that, you know?
I sent it to them,
Yeah.
but it showed on mine, so I'll make sure you have it.
Okay, I mean, it was on my calendar, but it had a line through it and said it had been canceled. So I don't know what happened with that, but I apologize for missing it, and I'll make sure I make it to the next one.
Yes, and it's definitely optional for all of you guys. So yes, don't like stress yourself out if you didn't make it, but I'll make sure it's on your calendar.
And then another meeting that we have on a monthly basis is the CAB meeting. That's the Chief Advisory Board. We have 8 to 10 members from our community. Meet last week. We had the honor of having Michelle and Tanya there. Thank you for being there. But we brought in some of our two of our canine squad members to talk about what we do with our dogs. I can't remember. One was what do you call it? A red Labrador?
Red fox?
Red Fox.
Red fox Labrador.
Yeah, it's a beautiful dog. And The other one was a wire hair.
Wire hair.
Terrier. But we were kind of talking about how they track, and we actually did a demo in the department. They hid some drugs, and they came in and found them immediately. They were able to watch how they interact, what behavior, like, it was interesting.
I thought it was very interesting. As, the dogs were not threatening at all. They're very friendly. You would never know. And that time they were told or given a signal, they went straight looking for the drugs. And it was amazing. They were, it's nice to see the dogs weren't threatening, so they wouldn't scare you, kind of on them. So it's really nice, so.
But that was fun, and thank you for coming, so. That's kind of our update today. Did somebody want to talk about House Bill 84? Is that, Michelle, is that on the agenda for today?
Yes.
I think a question came up in the last meeting. Right?
Do we have time?
Commissioner Woman. Were you on here? Was that your specific question about that? Or are you able to come off mute? Yeah. Yeah. She had the question of the presentation, yeah. I guess you can touch base on it. I don't know if she's able to come off mute right now.
Okay, sure. House Bill 84 is the new school safety law that was just passed. They have appointed, let me make sure I get this title right. Matt Pennington is the state security chief for DPS. He's over the entire state, and it's his charge to roll this out across the state. Every sheriff in each county is in charge of the training. And in this county, it's Sheriff Rosie Rivera. And so she has the responsibility of training. All the members will be involved in providing protection within the school. What it talks about is that every school within the state should have some sort of safety assessment. Go through it, look at it, ways that we could make them safer for children, better lighting, locking doors. I mean, have a real assessment of the school to make sure we're doing everything we can through physical barriers to make sure people can't enter those schools for kids. The other thing that they want to do is put an armed guard in every school, and you can do that through 3 ways. You can do that through a hired security team or person. You can do that by having a police officer in the school, or you can do that with an armed guardian. It's not supposed to be the principal or a teacher, but it's somebody that has been trained to be in the school. That's going to take some time to train people to get them into the schools. Just for reference, does anybody want to guess how many schools we have here in Salt Lake City? Anybody?
50?
46, close. 46. That includes all our elementary, junior highs and high school. And then we have 4 charter schools and 4 district learning centers. But also, this also covers private schools as well. We have 22 private schools here in Salt Lake City. So we have a lot of work to do. I think the timeline is they hope to have this fully in place by the beginning of next school year. But I had a meeting today with Matt Pennington. We'll be talking about how we would like to move forward here in Salt Lake City. I'll be getting hold of the superintendent, talking with her. But it's a partnership. A lot of it's put onto the school, see what they would like to have and how to do that. But again, we'll be a big part of that as well.
How's it funded?
There's funding.
There's funding
It's
for it?
run through the legislation.
Bill, legislative funding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I ask, for the school guardian, that you said like a community member could do that? What is the training for that? Because I think in another meeting we discussed, that one of the commissioners had read through the bill and there didn't seem to be a lot of information about the training. Because the other two like options are obviously well-trained. But what about for the guardian? Is there any, because if you wanted to start it by fall, that's like 2.5 months for training. Like what's that gonna look like?
Well, not this fall.
Oh, the next.
Next fall.
Oh, okay. I'm like, that's very soon.
So that's a big part of it.
Mhm.
What is the training gonna look like? Because in some of the rural settings, a guardian may work very well, but here in Salt Lake City, we probably want a security guard or but yeah, Matt's talking about, they were talking about first, I think, a 4-hour component to it, but it's gotta be much more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we want people in the schools to know exactly what to do. And then more importantly, if they need help and call for us, they know the kind of information we need to have as we come, because we're gonna be their backup.
So the school decides which type of person they have? You
Yeah.
said there are 3 types, okay.
That's their choice.
Yeah, they'll have some input on it. So at the bottom got cut off, sorry, but by fall of 24 or 2024 this year, the state will develop a committee, the local education agency. They'll be doing surveys at all of the schools and make recommendations for what type of security level each school will have. And then the schools will decide if they want a armed security, if they want an SRO or a guardian.
And must they choose one or do they have an option to say we don't need an officer here?
I don't think so.
No, the bill designates they have to.
And they must, okay.
The schools, the schools, Salt Lake City schools. the private schools, this will impact them, but they get to develop their own plan.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Okay, commissioners online, go ahead. Dia.
I was wondering how many schools currently in our city have school resource officers or security guards on site? Like how much more would we need to add to get everybody covered?
We have 7 SROs and 1 sergeant, so we have 8. By start of school next year, we would like to have 10 and a sergeant. We'd like to have, but we put two SROs in every high school, and then they work with the junior highs that feed into them. So you would see it would be a really big lift to get, another 36 officers. That would take several years to be able to hire that, train them, get into that position. That's why the security guard issue would be a good stopgap, or might be a good way to go forward with this.
Would the
Go ahead.
would Salt Lake City Police Department have any sort of control over the security guards, or would that be just with the school?
No, I think the school would have the responsibility of hiring them and funding them, but we would definitely have a big part. I mean, I want to work very closely with the security guards so that they know, what we would expect, how to engage and work with our officers. I would love to be very much engaged in that training as well.
Do you know how that relates to the security guards who currently run the weapons detectors in the high schools?
Right now, I do not.
Okay, thank you.
None of that is supervised or overseen by the Salt Lake City PD.
Commissioner Summerfield.
Yeah, so do private schools also have to hire one of these community members / guards?
I don't think they do, but they have to have a plan that meets the legislation. I haven't really focused on that part, but I think they'll have to have the assessments, but I don't think they're required to have the private security or an armed guardian.
Okay, I was on the school safety subcommittee back when it existed last year, and there was definitely like a lot of concerns about the way like school resource officers, like the practices and like specifically like the training they received. You mentioned a possible 4-hour training. I'm wondering what you think like an adequate training would look like, since obviously 4 hours isn't enough to be around children with a gun.
Are you talking officers, or are you talking about the security guards?
The security guards, or like whatever the legislation requires for these new individuals to enter schools.
Yeah, I was again in this meeting today. Sheriff Rivera has designated one of her staff. We'll be meeting with them to talk about what we think would be the best training to provide. So I can't quite tell you what that's gonna look like right now. I could be more than happy to come back as this thing progresses and kind of give you updates as we move along.
That'd be great.
Yes,
More?
no hands online. Okay,
Okay,
so that was that. Okay. We made it. Okay, we have to move on to our next presenter.
oh,
Thank you.
that's great.
Yes, yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for answering.
And then I will, yes, get any follow-up notes from the commissioners. So we will be moving on to our next presenter. We have Kathy Pena, with public outreach, or well, you're the public outreach and education coordinator for the Office of Fairness and Accountability for Utah Courts.
Thanks, Chief.
I thought it was very fitting to have Kati here. When we're understanding the criminal justice system, policing is just one part of it. And while we work closely with SLCPD, I think it is very important to understand all parts of the system, especially with Kati's work for the Utah court. So let me pull up your patient. The floor is yours.
And is it, can people hear me online from here, or is it better?
Probably come up.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Thank you, sorry.
Oh, no, absolutely.
So, yeah.
My name is Kathy Pena. I use she, her pronouns, and as Michelle stated, I work as the public outreach coordinator for the Utah State Courts. I work under the Office of Fairness and Accountability, and I'll talk a little bit more in depth about our office, the work that we do, and as well as my individual role within the court. Go to the next slide, please. So the Office of Fairness and Accountability is the newest office within the Utah State Courts, or our judiciary. It stemmed from a lot of great work that was done across different areas of the courts. There wasn't kind of one streamlined effort or office. There was just a lot of individuals doing kind of their own work in their own communities until about the early 2000s. A group that was called the Race and Ethnic Disparities Committee was formed, and they created a kind of state of the union, if you will, but for the judiciary in terms of race and ethnic disparities. As I mentioned, this was in the early 2000s, so it's a very old report, but it was kind of the birth of our office, if you will. It did take about 20 years down the road for us to eventually create our office in 2020. But a lot of this stemmed from the great work of the Race and Ethnic Disparities Committee, which still exists and has been kind of morphed into our office. Now, I've linked to that there. If you're interested in reading the report, it is a longer report. But like, as I mentioned, it's from the early 2000s, so it's a little outdated, but it was important in terms of the creation of a streamlined office for the judiciary to help us address a lot of these issues. Fast forward to 2020, our office was created, the OFA, or the Office of Fairness and Accountability. And our mission is to identify and remove bias from the courts, which is a lofty goal. And so that was kind of the start of our office back in 2020. I'll have you hit the next slide, please. So the current OFA structure is kind of split into three different buckets, if you will. Our first bucket is our language access team, which they're a team of, I believe now 10 interpreters that coordinate statewide interpretation for all the courts. And they kind of exist in their own bucket. And then the other two areas that we work on within the OFA are both internal and external OFA efforts. So internal OFA efforts, for example, are things like our data collection. And so right now we have two really big data projects that we're working on within the judiciary. Our first is our jury selection process. For those who've ever been in a courtroom, you can see that we have a lot of issues with having a fair and just jury process in which people are being judged by their peers or people who look like them, who come from the same communities, with same experiences. So we're actually doing a jury analysis right now. We're analyzing the demographics of our jury as opposed to the defendants, for example, to help us collect data because it's never been done before in the Utah State Judiciary. And we're working with Georgetown University, who's helping us. We've just sent the first batch of data to them and hoping to have a kind of first draft of an analysis in the fall. That we'll be doing a lot of community outreach to get input from our community. We've gotten support from our Supreme Court, who's the one who identifies our juries or our jury protocols. Because as some of you may know, with our jury selection as of right now in the state of Utah, lawyers have the right to withdraw anybody from jury duty for any reason. They can just say, I don't like people with red shirts, so anybody with a red shirt. And they don't actually have to state the reason. They have right now the right to determine who does and does not serve on a jury, which has led to a lot of bias in that process. So we're trying to work with our Utah Supreme Court to first step, collect data, analyze the data, and then make informed policy decisions that help address that bias in our jury selection process. And then another big data project we're doing right now is our judicial outcomes data collection. What I mean by judicial outcomes is we're looking at if you have a criminal case, maybe like a burglary case, for example, in St. George, are you getting the same outcome as if that case were being trialed in Salt Lake City or Park City or Logan? If so, why not? What are the major differences? Is it the jury? Is it the judge? Is it the defendant? What are the barriers or identifying barriers to having a fair and equal trial wherever you are across the state of Utah? And so we just collected all the data. We've been collecting data for the past few years with both all the levels of courts, and have sent that first batch of data to Georgetown as well, who's helping us analyze that and hoping to have a first draft of that again later in the fall. So we're very excited to collect this data. We haven't collected data like this in over 20 years now. So it's a long time coming. As I mentioned, we just never had kind of a streamlined office, but once our office was created, these kind of data projects got put under some of the internal OFA efforts that we do. So we're excited to kind of be leading those efforts. Other internal OFA efforts that we work on are our trainings. So trainings for our judges, our probation officers, our directors, our clerks. We train across the state. And right now we're shifting what was a DEI training because of some legislation to training of belonging and inclusion, but still some of the same principles kind of harmonized with some legislation and that has recently passed, but still continuing to work on internal trainings to address some of the bias and concerns around bias and creating a fair and equal court system for all. And then we're also working on a strategic plan. So about 20 to 22 other states, I believe, have a strategic plan for their judiciary. Utah has yet to have one. So we've been working with other states to see how they've done their strategic plan. And we're hoping to have a draft of ours by the summer. We'll be doing a lot of outreach to get community input to make sure community voices and partners are involved with helping us create a plan that encompasses the state of Utah. And then externally is kind of in terms of our OFA efforts is a lot of the work that I do as a public engagement coordinator. My position is statewide. So what I do externally is to kind of help create trust-based relationships with the community through different outreach efforts. One of the outreach efforts we do is just general outreach. So a lot of that's kind of tabling at community events and festivals. Last year we did Pride, we were at the Governor's Native American Summit, we did St. George Pride, we did Logan Latino Festival. This year we're going to Moab and trying to reach other kind of more rural parts of the state. Our office also has a tribal outreach coordinator, so I work very closely with her to do outreach to the tribal communities and other rural parts of the state that are don't have a lot of, if any, legal resources, whether that be a legal clinic, or that be pro bono clinics, things of that nature. And then a second bucket of the work is kind of specific outreach. So sometimes we work with specific nonprofits, organizations that are serving a specific clientele and helping them within a specific area of the law. So for example, last year, the Mexican consulate had a labor week. And as part of that, we went out and did a little clinic and brought lawyers for free and talked about wage theft and know your rights, and employment law. We've done ones for immigration with new citizens and done like a kind of know your rights. We've done stuff with shelters, women's shelters, protection orders, forced custody, and all that sort of stuff. So we have a team of internal lawyers that help us with that, as well as we partner sometimes with other external nonprofits who specialize in laws for a specific type of education clinic, pro bono legal clinic, something of that nature. Another project that we're working on externally is to create a more diverse pipeline. We talked about the issue of bias in our jury system, but we also have an issue with our judges or our bench. For anyone who's been in any courtrooms, you can kind of see that a lot of our judges are not reflective of the community that we serve, and so we're actually program right now. We have one with college or with law students, law schools here, BYU and VU. Where for free we partner underrepresented students with a judge for free to help them mentor them and create this pipeline into a pathway to the bench. There's been a lot of great wins that we've had in the recent history. 2022, for example, our Supreme Court became 3 Supreme Court that were women, 3 out of the 5, which is the first time in Utah history that a majority of the Supreme Court justices were women, which is very exciting. But there's also never been a person of color, for example, in our Supreme Court. In our appellate court, which is a younger court, that one's only been around since the 1970s. There's only been 1 judge of color on that court. It gets a little bit more diverse in some of the lower courts, in our juvenile court, our justice court, district court. But it's mostly around Salt Lake as you approach some of the other districts, that it starts becoming predominantly white and predominantly male. In some districts, there's never been a woman. There's never been a person of color as a judge. So we work with the law schools where we have a judicial mentorship program for students who are students of color, refugees, immigrants, first generation, single parents, veterans, have somebody with disability, just non-traditional students, LGBTQIA+ students. So we have a few different types of students that we try to reach out to. Anybody's welcome, but we specifically try to create a pathway for folks who are underrepresented in our bench, to make our bench as well as our jury more reflective of the community that we serve. So those are some of the examples of some of the external efforts that we are doing within the OFA to in terms of prioritizing our outreach efforts to reach more diverse communities. And then I just have some different resources in terms of that I just wanted to highlight that our office also helps coordinate. One of the programs that we have is My Case, which is free for folks after the pandemic. We've kind of shifted to allowing a lot of resources to be and court protocols to be done electronically, which has been really great in helping us reach especially our rural and kind of hard to reach areas. Folks can access My Case for free if they want to upload anything electronically, know when their next hearing is, reach out and get interpretation services, reach out to the court, the judge or the court's team themselves. It serves as kind of a platform or online platform for folks of a community to use across the state. You want to hit the next slide? Yes.
Sorry, yeah, I distracted her.
Oh, no.
I was just going to QR code,
Yeah.
checking it out, so.
And then we also have our self-help center, which is a coordinated effort within our law library. Utah's 2 law libraries, one at the U and then one at the Matheson Courthouse across. So we'll shift it around. But we also have a virtual service as well that has actually been around since the 1980s. It was one of the first virtual self-help centers in the country, where we have a team of attorneys that help for free. Most, if not all of them, are bilingual, Spanish and English, but we also provide interpretation for free. Utah state law. So whether it's family law, like divorce, custody, protective orders, evictions are a big one, debt collections are big ones as well, where we get lots of questions, but it's anything related to Utah state law. They can help kind of give you the resources, lay kind of all the options out for you, tell you what forms to fill out, help you fill out forms. And they won't represent you, but if you need representation, they can help you. Those resources. Help get the process started and call, text them, or go online. You can also come in person, but it's a really great resource again. That's statewide that we're happy to offer for free to anybody in Utah. And then this is just more information about our court interpretation program. If any folks are interested, for any folks who work with community members who don't speak English as a first, getting interpretation services, as well as folks who want to become interpreters. We're actively recruiting more interpreters. There's more of a demand than we have currently, so we're actively looking. Have more interpretations, and we also have waived all of our fees for training and for tests. If you know folks that want to become interpreters, we have more information there on that website that I've provided there below. And then this is another program that I wanted to highlight as well. That's a newer program that we've had for I believe it's 2020 and 2021, where we had a lot of divorce education for adults. It's actually mandatory if you're going through divorce to go through divorce education. As an adult, we didn't have anything for children, so OFA created a brand new divorce education program for children 6 to 17, where we have a free mental health professional talking to children with in-person events as well as virtual, again, trying to reach folks across the state, especially folks who don't normally have access to these classes or clinics or education, and also mental health professionals. And it's a really great resource that I wanted to share as well that the OFA is in charge of. And then this is just more information about where you can go on our website, where we have lots of help information, but some good places to get started in terms of where we have free legal clinics, and these are legal clinics across the entire state, and you can go through geographically on the map, finding legal help if folks do need assistance and need an attorney, and then also resources for folks who are representing themselves. A majority of our court users now, about 80% of our court patrons across the entire state of Utah are actually self-represented litigants, meaning they don't have an attorney. So we're actually actively shifting a lot of our resources, including our education, our website, and even our court protocols to help be more just for folks who are representing themselves. Originally, most folks who came through our doors were folks who had access to attorneys, but a lot of things have shifted. And so we are currently trying to involve and have more representation for folks who are representing themselves. We actually have a project called Community Voices, where in all of the judicial committees, we're adding 2 community voices within the next year, which we're really excited. We have tons of committees. That's how we run our judiciary. We have committees on forms, on education. We train our judges, for example, facilities, how we build our facilities, on outreach, on the Office of Fairness and Accountability, and all these data projects I discussed. I believe we have anywhere between 15 to 20 committees. And so we're actively adding more representation for folks work either in organizations or nonprofits who help folks who are to include those voices into our policy kind of making and implementation through our communities. So that's another.
How do they become part of this? Do they just call the number or go to the website, or, I mean, like.
For the community voices?
Yes.
That's actually just, we're working right now in kind of a phase 1 where I'm at, in charge of the program. So I'm meeting with all the committees, I believe it. So I've met with about 10 of them to ask them what types of community voices they're looking for. Because some, for example, are really wanting to work with domestic violence. They want to work with folks who work with domestic violence victims to help improve. Really wanting to work with the Asian Pacific Islanders. So each committee is a little bit different. So I'm actively collecting that, and then hopefully by the fall, I'll actively start recruiting through community partners and sending emails to community partners, doing outreach, going to community partners and saying, we now have, we'll probably do it in batches of, we now have these 5 committees have open slots. We have, right, yeah, absolutely. And I'll have I think I have my contact information in the next slide.
Yeah.
And so please feel free to email me, but right now we're in kind of in the internal phase where I'm meeting with all the committees, just see what kinds of voices they're looking for based on the work of that committee, what kind of programs they're doing, what kind of analysis they're doing. And what would be the best fit for the voice that's currently missing, because as I mentioned, most of those committees are all lawyers and judges, and 80% of our court patrons not lawyers, they're representing themselves. We're trying to shift a lot of our services and our education and way that we run and implement our judiciary to be more reflective of the community we serve. So that program is currently just launched internally, working right now to figure out what are the best needs for all those different committees, and then hopefully to kind of launch the external portion of that kind of in phases by the fall.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, thank you for coming. That's exciting to us. And so, with the training, with the interpreters, does that include the ASL interpreters and they waive the fees also?
Yep, right now we're waiving all the fees for the testing as well as the training, which $100.
Yeah.
And that's for every single language.
Okay.
So if you know folks who speak other languages, tell them to come to the courts.
I will.
Yeah. And it's a great program too, because you don't have to be full-time. You could go as little as 2 hours to 40 hours a week. So it's really great for folks who, especially starting off and only want to do a few, you get to choose your own schedule. You could do it virtually as well as in person. So it's a very flexible option, trying to recruit more folks. So trying to make it as flexible. Commissioner Calvert, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I was, that sounds like a very interesting program. That you guys are just going to waive all the fees for any kind of interpreting, or is it just, and how are you getting the word out to these people that do that do the language and the interpreting?
Yeah, so our language access team also does their own outreach. So for example, for when they want more Spanish interpreters, they work a lot with the Mexican consulate. I know they've done a lot of events and tabling promotion, whether it's both flyers through going in person, and then they travel across the state as well to other community partners that work with diverse communities that speak different languages based on the language needs that they had. And then the legislature actually funded additional funding that will kick in July of this year to increase the outreach as well as increase the pay for more interpreters to help us continue to waive these fees. So a lot of that has been a lot of continued funding as well as additional funding that we've received in this legislative session to continue to waive those fees and increase the rate as well starting in.
So will they be able, are they going to be as well as, are you going to be certifying them in the courts as well? And as well as in medical and on all those areas?
Yeah, so they do all the for all the languages, they do a training. Well, we outsource that training, so we don't do that internally, but there's training available for every language, and from there folks sign up individually to take court interpreter certification test. And that is what the court is willing to waive. So both the training and the certification test. And it is a separate certification test from a medical interpreter certification. But we do have lots of folks who are crossover from the medical field into the court field. I believe over half of our teams.
That's really good news, because right now I know the courts are really struggling with trying to get interpreters to to come and be a part of it. I know the state hired 4 full-time interpreters, which took those out of the pool, and which were pretty qualified interpreters. So I'm looking forward to seeing that come to fruition, to see to see more of these guys being able to get certified.
Yeah, absolutely. We as well.
Were those, just to clarify for some of the commissioners, so I'm making sure, is it the interpreter, is it with this slide? Or
it was, I think, two
slides. Okay.
I think. This one. So there's a website and then
where people can apply.
That one's where folks can request, but in that same website, it also for where people can apply for the interpretation program, and then what kind of when trainings are.
Right.
And then where to go for certification, because you don't have to go through this training. Sometimes folks, for example, who have been a medical interpreter for years, just go straight into the test.
Okay.
But for folks who haven't, it just goes over information about where we have the next couple trainings. We also have sessions of just kind of, I think that those happen quarterly of like what it takes to be an interpreter and go through that process. And then also where to take a certificate.
So now all the fees are waived as of starting now, right?
Yes. As of this year, and then also continuing into the next year as well.
Okay, into 2025.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's really great news.
It is. That's great.
Yeah, so thank you. And also, yes, thank you for being here and I commend your efforts. I think it's really important work. And so I'm a researcher and that's relevant to the question that I want to ask you, which is basically like I spent years, I worked in courts, program evaluation. I have extensively researched and published in the area of racial and ethnic disparities in prison admissions and sentencing. And so my question is, a lot of the challenges that I have seen is that courts specifically and prosecutors' offices do not share data. So I think it's excellent that you guys are undergoing all this data collection they said you haven't done in over 20 years. And so is that going to be made available to the public in the name of transparency? Is that something that you guys all have thought about? Because not about Utah specifically, but my experience has been that everybody's very like hush hush.
The data will be made available. It will be grouped by district. So the way that judiciary runs is that we have 8 judicial districts that are just geographic districts. Right now, for example, we're the 3rd district, which is like Salt Lake, Tooele, like up to Summit. Yeah. So we will, I know that publicly they will share, will be by districts and saying, here's what's going on in 2nd district, which is like Ogden area versus 4th district, Provo versus, and that information will be public and that'll be part of my role is once it's made available, I believe it'll be like early fall, also doing these different, and if the data is telling us like, okay, there's a lot of issues happening in 5th district, which is St. George, Cedar City, then we'll be doing a lot of outreach in that area, talking to community members, community partners, as well as talking internally to our judges, our probation officers, our clerks, and seeing what are data is telling us kind of is reflective of what's happening in reality. And then from there, as we mentioned, we haven't done a lot of this data collection in a very long time. So from there, it'll be kind of phase by phase of some sort of training, but also as well as just a lot of community outreach and development in terms of education, whether it's partnering with other agencies and creating more of a legal community that they trust, that's authentic based in terms of those relationships to ensure that they're getting equal access to justice. Because we know there's a gap. We know that lots, for example, in Moab, there's currently no legal clinics. There's no legal assistance programs, there's no permanent clinics, versus we have, I mean, I think the University of Utah has like 15 they do a month, just themselves. That's one community partner that we know is doing it. There's so many community partners, but there's still a need here, but there's also needs across the states. So we know these things, but we're excited for the data to help us kind of identify quantitatively what we see qualitatively, kind of bridge that gap together. So it'll be a process and a little bit of a pilot in this first year of what the data tells us and how we'll build that with community, but all of that will be shared with the community. And we want that to be an intentionally transparent process in order to help us build that trust. And we want that to be a collaborative process. So we don't want to go in and say, we know exactly what the formula is to fix this. We really want that process to be done by the community, which is why we're trying to do these other initiatives like our Community Voices initiatives to add those voices in to our system, to the way that we already plan and implement policy to help us in the long term, kind of not just fix it or put a Band-Aid on it for a year or two, but just to really see a change. So that when we do this in 20 years from now, it's a lot different.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to email you.
Yeah, please do. Yes.
It's like, yeah.
I have more questions.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That's very
like my
informative.
email's available and my phone, that's my work. call or text that number if you have any questions, but yeah, please feel free if you're working with communities, or if you have ideas. We definitely we're a new office, so a lot of our programs are still new. We're still looking to create new programs and education and ways that we can connect with the community. We want to do that in a way that feels authentic and is trust-based and feels community driven and led. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any thoughts, questions, or.
No, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, just to be mindful of time, we might go like a few minutes over. So I do want to solidify a date for the retreat. So last year we did this retreat in about 4 hours. I think we kind of went a little over, but there was like a self-care piece. The thing now is, and maybe the dates and times are a little bit limited. I do think weekends would be better, but I want to hear from you all. Better in the sense that we don't have to come from a long day of work and then still try to be active and engaged for a retreat. But every single option, so out of the 4 options, there's gonna be 4 people missing at each one. Like and for me, I rather have just less than 4 missing. I would rather have like the majority that we can get. Especially this time, I think I learned a lot more from last year's retreat. We already had the orientation with the new commissioners, so we don't need to go over that, but I feel like this retreat can be more focused on how can we come up with a formal recommendation and just more tangible things to your work so that you all can feel self-sufficient on how you can lead in this commission as well as self-care. So can I get some feedback on what was, or is it the dates? Is it the timing? Is there better timing? I'm just worried if we look into July, I know it's gonna get more into summer, and June, we don't have a meeting, so it also helps offset that. Commissioner Taylor.
By any chance, do you have a document in front of you where you can share the screen just so that I could see the dates again? Because I vaguely remember you asking, and I think I just threw dates out there, but I might be in a situation where I can do whatever dates are available. I just don't remember what the options were, is why I'm asking. Is that something you can share?
Yes, let me pull that up. That was on a form, the Google form, let me see. And it was like 4 Saturdays, I believe. I think last year we did do Saturday and Sunday, but I do want to respect the Sundays, but if you all are open to that, I'm flexible. I have so many tabs, so give me, I know I'm like, right here, okay. So this form, let me share this screen. Okay, so the date options, let me go back to the questions, oh, sorry. Okay, I think this might still be, oh yeah, this is all individual. Okay. So the date options were June 8th, 1 to 4. Just because I personally won't be available in the morning. Then Saturday, June 15th, 1 to 4. Saturday, June 22nd, 10 to 1. And Saturday, June 29th, 10 to 1. So we can look at different time, if those Saturdays work, but is it a timing thing? That's kind of what but you can see here the responses have like 3 or 4 people missing. And if people are missing, then they're missing, but I mean, I think
I know doing it earlier in the day would be better for my schedule on the weekend, earlier in the day, as opposed to right in the middle of the day, but I'm still flexible.
Okay. Okay, well, let me, yeah, what should or is it the date? Should I keep the dates or should I fluctuate the time? Should I just open it up wider and not so specific?
So would like 10 to 2 work?
Yeah, I think it was just
Oh, 10 to
different
1, sorry,
weekends,
10 to 1,
yeah.
yeah.
I just want to clarify that online just would not be an option for this retreat.
Yeah.
Oh.
If we, it just depends on the space. I think Chloe, I think I know your situation, so. I'm happy to make online an option, but I really want to preface, I guess, online, like I love these in-person interactions, and while online is an option, and I definitely appreciate it, I think for like things like the retreat, I would love for it to be in person. If you can't make it, then we can figure something out, or, but for that piece, it's gonna be kind of hard to engage, like the self-care piece we had last year, that would be really difficult from person, you just wouldn't have that connection, but I'm not opposed.
Noted. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Calvert?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I know that last year I missed it, but this year I really want to be there. So and I would hope that people would be there, because to have that interaction with people and being able to talk with people and meet those people would be awesome.
Thank you for the comment. So I can, maybe I should just resend this out with a wider gap. So do we want to open it up to Saturday and Sunday? Is there, or by a show of hands, who is definitely gonna say no to a Sunday? Julia, you're saying
I
no?
didn't thumbs up that. I'm saying that Saturdays or Sundays are both
Oh,
good.
okay. I was like, are you saying both? No, okay. So look at both Saturdays and Sundays. And Sundays, is there a preference, like earlier in the day?
I would say earlier in the day.
Earlier in the day, mornings,
Mhm.
okay. We will go back to the drawing board. I will get this out to you as soon as possible, because I want this on your calendars. I know June is a busy month with just the holidays, Juneteenth, Pride Month. June's just busy traveling, so I want to get this out to you all. So we will come back to that. And then on the process for the subgroups. So I know we moved from subcommittees to these subgroups. And I know part of it is probably we're waiting on Michelle to tell us the next steps. What does this look like for you in terms of my engagement? I feel like when myself and the chair and vice chair all reviewed your applications, like you all have things to bring to the table. I think right now with a lot of the subgroups, it is just a research thing, like how are we gonna get this done? I'm happy to connect all the people that are in a group, and we'll probably have to go to the drawing board in terms of finding a date and time to meet. So kind of feel like subcommittees again in a way, but I really want you all to feel empowered and be kind of hands-on with this, but a lot of it right now is really researching on, like for the implied bias survey. I have some thoughts on how we can do this, but I have not had like all the brain capacity to just focus on this one area. Same for like the civilian review board, that's like a research thing, maybe looking at other cities, other states, what are they doing, comparable cities and states. So I wanna hear from you all, do you want me to set up a date and time for that? I think right now with June, I would love to focus on the retreat, so I can still meet with you all and get your thoughts, but would that be helpful to kind of connect the subgroups together? I just know people are on multiple ones, so maybe I might do a text. I don't know if a text would be better than an email or a bunch of emails if you're on more than one group.
Michelle, I'm sorry, it's Commissioner Taylor. Is your question that, are you asking if we want you to facilitate getting those subgroups together? Is that your question?
Yes.
That you should organize our meeting? Okay.
Yes, because I'm feeling like, I mean, I know we all get busy, but I'm not sure how everyone feels about it, because it's a new thing we're trying, right? And I know I have to also be involved with all of your discussions. But I just also want to reassure you, some of you have had really all of you guys have phenomenal resumes, and I know the work you can do, especially with research. Like, I totally forgot, Commissioner Durante, you did all that research. I was like, oh yeah, you put that on your resume. So I know you all are skilled at what you all are doing, but is it just a guidance of kind of, I don't know, kind of like just to get us on a path and track, and then we can get moving. And I don't expect anything to be done by the next month's meeting. Like, no, that's not the expectation, but we should be having like little steps because these are huge projects. What's left is very huge. Yeah. So I'm kind of seeing nods. I'll do a warm handoff. Commissioner Wessel.
So I think that perhaps having some time set aside at the retreat to discuss the shape and direction of these groups would be beneficial to all of us.
I agree. Yeah, that's good insight. Okay. So then we should get the retreat date going, and then
Yes,
that will,
let's
okay.
meet them.
That would be a perfect place to start it, yes.
Right.
Great idea. Okay. Okay, so the last thing I wanna let you all know, so I know we're not really doing subcommittees, but kind of doing subcommittees. The neurodiversity subcommittee, that is gonna be tabled till further notice. So that was the subcommittee between our commission here and the Accessibility and Disability Commission. So starting next meeting, you won't see this on the agenda anymore. As well as the application review, because we're at a full commission. We're always accepting applications, but right now I think I want our momentum to go into this work while we're full. And I don't think anybody's resigning at this point in time. So that's the big update for that. That subcommittee you will see no longer, so you should get that off your calendars. I think I already did that probably a month ago. So just make sure you remove it and you don't see it. If you have problems, let me know. And then I'll pass it back to you
Do we have anything for closed session to discuss? Okay. So is there a motion to close this meeting?
Oh, and
I'm sorry.
Mayor
Oh,
will be
wait,
at our
Mayor.
next meeting, sorry, July 11th.
I was gonna say, wait, the mayor.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
gonna
yeah.
come, so if you all can be in person, that would be great. With the people, I know other people's circumstances, but yes, for those here and local.
So is there a motion to move? Oh my God, a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And we are at 7:09. And thank you so much. See you at the retreat. Don't be shy to like send any concerns or questions to us. And we can forward it to the chief or whatever, because I love what was brought up at the U.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very concerning to me also.
If you can send those to me in writing, it will be
Yeah.
great, because Maria and I do our best to take notes, but I think how you all said it is
It was
solid,
great.
so just.
Like the questions we asked?
Yes,
Please.
Oh, all right, yeah.
that we can follow up.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Have a good night.
Have a great weekend.
So.
You guys have a great